the 2001-2008, when I served as ministers, I think it will be useful to indicate what periods I was the Minister for Energy, Communication, and so on and so forth. I certainly will do that for you, Honorable Chairman. I think, Honorable Chairman, I probably can only add that I've held some leadership positions before. I have been the president of the Ghana Institute of Chartered Accountants in 1996, and I also have been the vice president of the Association of Accountancy Bodies in West Africa, again in 1996, at the Association of Certified Chartered Accountants. But I have indicated that I have stopped paying my dues, it not being very relevant to me again. But I still continue to be a member of the Ghana Institute of Chartered Accountants. And a couple of years ago, the University of Professional Studies did give me an honorary doctorate degree. So, Honorable Chairman, that is about myself.
Chairman, if I still have your indulgence, page 5. Do I assume, Minister, that you serve on the National Security Council under Article 83 of the Constitution when you say boards and councils? That we should add on the National Security Council.
I mean, for the past 4 years.
Whatever period in your life, because I assume that when you are Minister for Defense and Interior, you probably served in those roles. But I see boards and councils. I haven't seen the National Security Council.
To tell you the truth, I left that one out, and I was thinking of my service on the National Security Council over the past 4 years. You know, the Constitution of national security to be a member of the National Security Council. So I go there as an observer.
Are you suggesting you are sitting in as an illegal person at the pleasure of the president?
I go there as an observer. And the president,
okay, Chairman is in control.
Right.
Yes, Eric. Yeah. There may be other ministers determined by the president. So his sitting there may not be illegal. Once the president permits that he becomes part of it, it's legal. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Minister, so you confirm that you sat on the committee the period you were Minister for Defense?
Yes, and Chairman, if I still have the opportunity, the Honorable Dapaah is also call him a repeat or recycled or renewed minister at the Ministry of National Security. He comes to that job with that rich background, having been Ghana's Minister for Defense and Interior. So what is the state of our national security with COVID and with all the terrorism threats in the country?
The convention is that security ministers are in camera, and we have this. I'm drawing his attention.
A lot of security challenges. So it's a whole area of itself, challenges that are posed to national security as a result of the COVID. You remember the problems that we had when we went on the first lockdown, the difficulty of getting food for our people. All these were challenges. We also continue to have the normal security challenges. Crime continues to be a problem. Illegal mining is a problem. Drug and human trafficking. We have a lot of chieftaincy problems. The borders continue to be porous, and we have transnational crimes. We also do have some emerging crimes such as cybercrime and terrorism. But to a large extent, I think we are managing them fairly well. And if you ask me, the security situation in the country today, I would say it's stable.
Chairman and colleagues, I'll yield the floor shortly. infrastructure have you deployed? The Ghana Armed Forces have no IT technology. The police service is relying on some 1 or 2 rooms technology. How ready are we for an attack that may be cyber-related?
Cybercrime is not fairly new, but it wasn't what we considered in our country as a major security threat. But in recent times, it's become one of the real major security challenges and threats that we have. And we are aware that we must find a way to respond to it. It is doing quite some harm and damage in our country. But if you go to some of the institutions, you will find that we need to be properly resourced. We need to have the proper human resources to be able to attend to the challenges there. We did study the whole program holistically and came to the conclusion that within the country, if there is one institution that is better placed, that is well prepared, that is well resourced to take care of our cyber security challenges, it probably is the Ministry of Communication. And over the past few years, you would have noticed that we have been citing our cyber security architecture at the Ministry of Communication. The same belief that it is important for the national security to acquire the expertise, the other security. And just before the end of last year, we considered setting up a task force on the digitalization of the security and intelligence agencies. We were not able to put it in place, but we hope that this year we will be able to do that. That will mark the start of very serious preparation and efforts to have the capacity that is needed in the area of cybersecurity within the intelligence agencies and the other security agencies. But for now, we want to take comfort from the expertise that is readily available at the Ministry of Communication.
Chairman, and as I've said, I'm just warming up the minister. I observe that in the public domain, there's too much visibility of armed soldiers with weapons and guns everywhere, some following chief executives, others even ministers. Is it a government policy to deploy the Ghana Armed Forces instead of the Ghana Police Service, which is responsible for civil order in the country? What explains that?
This is a decision that is already taken by the security agencies. For instance, when we do have a report that a particular individual has a problem and that people are after his life, we think there is a danger, we can provide support. We do not only give it to ministers and to other high-profile members of the society. I do know of some people, in fact, I do know of journalists that we continue to provide security cover and security support to. It is our responsibility to ensure that the lives of the people of this country, whatever their status, are protected. And whenever it becomes necessary, we try to do.
It's appreciated, but Minister, my question is that a vote of no confidence on the Ghana Police Service established by law to maintain law and order. Nobody has a problem with the police maintaining public peace and order. But if we so see soldiers everywhere, growing up as a young person, let me go back to your rural village there, massive drama. When you compare those soldiers around with guns everywhere, as we are seeing them in town,
anywhere you have seen the soldiers having to protect a particular individual, it is because in our assessment, the assessment of the security experts, there is the need for such support to be given to that particular person.
I'm saying you cannot do so with the police.
At times you have to use certain equipment which will not be readily available, say, to the police.
Are you suggesting that the Ghana Police Service is not up to the task?
Clearly, the Ghana Police Service and the other security agencies have, in terms of equipment, in terms of men, they've never had the full complement of what it is to provide the most effective police.
With mandates the Auditor General to be able to search ahead of Parliament reviewing the report. And Chairman, with your indulgence, I quote, and Minister nominee, if you have the Constitution, the Article 187, there shall be an Auditor General. You are more familiar with it than any other person. There is first in 5. The Auditor General shall, within 6 months after the end of the immediately preceding financial year, to which each of the accounts mentioned in clause 2 of this article relate, submit his report to Parliament and shall, in that report, draw attention to any irregularities in the accounts audited and to any other matter which, in his opinion, ought to be brought to the notice of Parliament. Now, the Supreme Court says that the Auditor General can proceed even without Parliament acting as constitutionally required.
Certainly do know what I'm talking about because I also used to be the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. I must say that I was really sad when I heard of that decision by the Supreme Court. I want to believe, with all due respect, that it is totally wrong. And I have said to some of my colleagues in Parliament that you must find a way to fight it. Honorable Chairman, I said this because the Ghana Public Financial Management System is modeled around what we call the Westminster system, which revolves around the budget cycle. The budget cycle are in 4 phases. The first phase where the budget is prepared, the second phase where the budget comes to Parliament for Parliament to approve the budget before the government takes it to the third stage to implement it. And then the Constitution says, at the end of it all, we want an independent person, call him the Auditor General. In some places, they will even call him the Parliament's Auditor. We want the Parliament's Auditor working for out of Parliament who goes through the accounts of the executive branch to Parliament, whether monies have been spent in accordance with the budget that Parliament approved, and whether in so doing, government has also followed the financial laws and regulations that Parliament has approved. This is the job that the Auditor General does. The Auditor General does this job on behalf of Parliament. It is Parliament that employs him to do that. The practice has been for the Auditor General to then bring his report to Parliament. In fact, it is said in auditing that the work of the Auditor General is not conclusive until Parliament would have ratified the report. It is therefore totally wrong for the Auditor General to go ahead to disallow and say that the institution that employed him to do that audit has not even seen the audit report. It is only Parliament that can say that yes, your report is okay, and therefore this man should be said and disqualified and tell us. But the decision whether to actually disqualify it or not must be a decision of Parliament. Mr. Chairman, with the current position, there is no need for the Public Accounts Committee. The Auditor General goes ahead to punish people. If you have a good Auditor General, you thank your God. But let's wait until we get a bad Auditor General with this Parliament to at that matter and make sure that it is reversed.
Very well. Yes, Reverend.
Indeed, Honorable Chairman, if I just indulge me, I've always given the example of an audit. I say I have a company, Dapaah Limited, and I employ some auditors to come and audit it for me. The company belongs to me, I'm the chairman, but I'm old, and my son is managing it. At the end of the year, I get an auditor to come and do the audit for me. The auditor finds that my son has misappropriated some money. Without bringing the report to me, he takes my son to court and he's jailed because that is fine. I employed him. If he has sent the report, he must come to me. Then I will empower him to do what he wants. And I have a very strong view on this. I believe I will take it up.
Yes, Honorable Member for I'm not really when I gave you, you put your hand down. So very well. Can you wait? Yes, Reverend.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity and congratulations, Honorable Minister nominee, given your over 43 years of both private and public practice as a venerable public servant, and rightly so appropriateness of your credentials and previous positions you held in very sensitive areas. I must congratulate you once again. To my question, Parliament, over the years, over the past 4 years, has approved some substantial amounts to the various security agencies, and subsequently we've seen a deployment of logistics and resources to the various security agencies in our efforts of retooling the national security apparatus. But observation has been inapplicable deployment of such resources that have already been procured and resources expended on to the various locations, and in particular the locations that do suffer are the areas in deprived locations. What would you do when you get a nod to rectify this anomaly?
Honorable Chairman, the difficulty has always been that in previous years, and we're not talking about during the NDC time, during the MPP time, during the CPP time, the truth of the matter is that the security and intelligence agencies have never been given the right amount of money for them to be able to do their work. Understandably so. When you do have insufficient resources, as we have in these developing countries, there is always the challenge of whether money is wisely spent on education, on health, and most times it is considered that if you don't have money to buy chalk, why do you want to get money to go and buy guns? Why do you want to get money to go and buy equipment for the police and the armed forces? And for many years we've been able to live with this. We've not given them sufficient monies, but somehow we've been able to have safe, secure, stable countries. Things are changing, and we believe that it is important for us to find for the security and intelligence agencies monies that they need to be able to do their work. Most importantly, Honorable Chairman, there is the need for us to leverage technology in the way that we do our work. And this is something that leaves lots of money, and something that we should be able to get governments to get their minds to it. I must say that over the past 4 years that I've been in office, I've been in a cabinet to a very large extent to devote substantial amounts of money to the security and intelligence agencies, and we will continue to do that. Honorable Chairman, when we've the threat of terrorism from outside was real. Everybody knew it did exist. But it wasn't as threatening, as dangerous as it has been over the past few years. We need to be able to have the resources, equipment, men, all that it takes to ensure that we can keep these terrorists at bay. It requires money, it requires prioritization, and we will continue to urge the government to do that for us. Honorable Chairman, the honorable member is right. You go to some villages, some districts in our country to do the policing work. In actual fact, it is possible that you can find some districts where they don't have more than 2 police stations, and yet it covers a whole wide area, and the police should be able to move around, because at times they don't even have the weapons to do the policing work. So I'm happy because there is a government that there is the need to do something about it, and I think going by what you've been able to achieve, sooner or later we will be wherever they are in the country.
Honorable nominee, in your submission just a while ago, you indicated terrorism as a major threat, security threat. Of course, in West Africa and the Sahel sub-region, to do with illegal exploitation of natural resources and conflicts between nomadic herdsmen and farmers, and maritime piracy and such other notable security threats. To what extent are threats emanating from these challenges interlinked, and what is the resilience of our national security apparatus to contain?
Yes, they are interlinked. Yes, they are all very, very dangerous. I may not want to mention specific names, but there is a case of this sister country, one of our neighbors, when we took over, or when I became the Minister for National Security about 4 years ago, the terrorists had taken over some 5-8% of that country. So many years later, 3 years later, as we speak, the terrorists occupy over 75% of that country. That is the nature of the threat that faces us, and that is what can happen to us if we do not get the resources, if we do not plan properly to fight, to keep them off. So, yes, the dangers are there. Remember, there was a time when we thought terrorism was all about some terrorists coming into our country, going into a hotel where the expatriates are and bombing here and there. No, today it's much more than that. They are not going to come as an invading force with guns shooting here and there. They have a way of sneaking into our country, penetrating into our country, and causing a lot of harm. And it's not just the terrorists coming in. There's a problem with piracy. The area, the Gulf of Guinea, used to be a very, very safe area. Over the past 2 years, it's been the worst area in terms of piracy, crimes all over the world. So that also is a major danger. These are all interlinked. And Honorable Chairman, I may probably add that it was because of the serious challenges that we've been having that the ministry and government came up with a national framework for preventing and countering violent extremism and terrorism in Ghana, which is guiding us in how we respond to these challenges. And probably it will be proper if I do not recognize the role that was played by the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament in the preparation of this document, and also the support that we got from leading a document that has contribution from people who really matter others believe that it is work. So the framework is there, and as much as possible, we try to have it.
I have a few questions to ask you of the new Security and Intelligence Agencies Act 2020. You spearheaded the passage of this law, for national security, that the minister shall ensure that all activities of the national security apparatus are carried out in compliance with domestic and international laws. Now, in the period leading up to the expiration of we noticed the massive deployment of the military and cool minority leader, who promptly issued a press release of the. Now, subsequent to the deployment, on the 7th of January, in the company of some element from the Greater Accra Regional Command, had the audacity to storm the parliamentary chamber when the House had actually convened to elect the Speaker of Parliament. My question is, time your tenure as minister had determined, but the technical staff, the coordinator, and all other officers were at post. What briefings did you subsequently get with respect to the deployment? Who authorized the deployment of the troops in the parliamentary chamber?
Honorable Chairman, I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, it's obviously a strange thing when you have soldiers going into the parliamentary chamber for whatever reason. When I saw it, I was also alarmed. My colleagues were equally alarmed. Another thing of it were alarmed that something like that had happened. So I did take the trouble to find out how it happened. Remember, it was that simple. Somebody, the commander, in his opinion, found that things were getting out of hand in the chamber, and that they needed to go there to try to restore order. I posed the question, to restore what order? Did you think your presence there was going to frighten the members of parliament? No. You were not going to be able to frighten them. Were you going to arrest them? No. You couldn't have arrested them. It was as bad as you said we should go.
The fact that Parliament is the fulcrum around which he said commander decided to storm the chamber would use it to serve as a deterrent to like-minded officers in the future in the name of preserving our democracy.
I do know, honorable member, as the government said, the present representative at the Ministry for National Security, that yes, the CDS has been asked to investigate the matter and to take the appropriate action if he also comes by the conclusion that what was done was totally unprofessional. So it's not that we will do something if we come back to power or if I get a law. I know that orders have already been given for the CDS to take appropriate action. And I agree with you, nobody should underestimate the significance of what happened.
Whether time limits given for this
2007, team appealed former minister white paper, jettisoned this very recommendation. But given where you are coming from as the minister responsible for it, with the authority to coordinate the affairs of the intelligence agencies of our state and the security agencies as a whole, you still believe that it is necessary to have such an operational unit at your ministry, notwithstanding the fact that government's white paper says otherwise?
Honorable Chairman, the Honorable Vice President so many things into one statement, and I don't know where to about this incident, probably because I believe honorable members are keen to know about what happened at Ayawaso during the by-election. I suppose that is what you are referring in the case. Honorable Chairman, let me say that that's a very, very unfortunate incident. Very unfortunate incident coming on the heels of by-election violence at Etiwa, at Tripoli, at Talensi, the constituencies. We've had experienced such things, and we thought it was not going to happen in Ghana again, that we have seen how bad it could be, and at Talensi, it was going to end it all. So when this one came up, everybody was alarmed, everybody was concerned, and I think it is fair to say that the president demonstrated his personal concern and the concern of the government and also the concerns of the general public, because there was a cry from the general public that something be done. Minister Bonsu, who now serves on the Supreme, the government white paper did say why it was unable to accept all the recommendations. The government white paper accepted a number of the recommendations, but did say that they were unable, the government was unable to accept all the recommendations for some two fundamental reasons. The first one, Honorable Chairman, was that if you look at the terms of reference given to the committee, the first item A, was that they were to make a full, faithful, and impartial inquiry into the circumstances of and establish the facts leading to the events and associated violence that occurred during the Ayawaso West Region by-election. When you go through the report, we do not have any, we don't find anywhere where they respond to the first demand of the Commission of Inquiry, which was that they should do this. The government said, because of this fundamental issue, we are unable to accept the report in its entirety. There was a second fundamental reason. You see, they were assuming, when you read through the report, that the so-called
rather on national TV than perhaps do it in your office. Having come from the Minister of the Interior, having worked with you, and under your able mentorship and guidance in the last 8 months or so, I want to thank you for the good leadership you provided me whilst I was there. And I say that through this leadership, you have unearthed a hidden talent in me to be able to stand firm and say that indeed you have taught me something in security. On behalf of my constituents and my good self, I thank you very much for that leadership. And I also want to say that because of this, I want to use you as my referee.
I don't remember, that is a private matter. I've taken my time from you.
Minister,
I'm not asking any question of the person you're praising so highly, so kindly lend it here.
No, I'm asking a question now, please.
Really?
Yes.
After all this praise?
Yes, preliminary.
Very well.
Honorable Minister, one of the goals that Mr. President set, amongst others, when he took office was to resolve the almighty Dapaah crisis. And by the grace of God, through extensive consultations, and you playing a very significant role, today Dapaah has seen peace. Mr. Minister, when you are eventually given the nod, there are other chieftaincy issues across the country in other regions. I would not necessarily mention the other regions. But with the region, how you were able to resolve the matter in Dapaah, would you consider using same, though the circumstances may not be the same, to try and resolve other chieftaincy issues?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. And I've always found it necessary to explain this. Dapaah meant so much to the President. Probably you wouldn't normally associate the national security with it, but the President did have an occasion to call me and the Minister for Chieftaincy Affairs, and he gave us a blueprint. He said that this is a promise that I made to the people of Ghana, and I just want the two of you to come together to work to achieve peace there. Fortunately, we had friends, including the Honorable Minority Leader, who gave us some tutorials here and there. And there was this determination among the people of Dapaah themselves to try to bring this to an end. So it was very much the effort of His Excellency, the President. I only did the level. Reports that I get on my desk every evening, you could say about 40-50% relate to chieftaincy matters. Chieftaincy means a lot to many people in Ghana. It doesn't matter what tribe. And I think we believe that we should continue to work closely with the chieftaincy ministry and to try to find solution to chieftaincy matters in other places in the country. Very tough process. At times you are not, people don't trust that you come with open hands to try to find an open solution. All sort of things are said. But I believe, Honourable Member, that it is important that the national security apparatus helps the Ministry of Chieftaincy to try to address some of these chieftaincy issues. As I said, most of them are very difficult ones, but we should forge ahead and try to do it. I look forward, if given the nod, to engage my myself more in trying to find solutions to these chieftaincy matters.
Honorable Minister nominee, you were very instrumental a few months ago in passing the Security and Intelligence Agencies Act. Honorable Minister, hitherto the National Security Secretariat, as it was known, used to have a lot of, in fact, when you drive past by, you can feel the fear in your stomach. You are in the arts. You are also managed to demystify the otherwise known as BNI, now NIB. Honorable Minister nominee, you have been a seasoned member of Parliament. Now, moving from the Secretariat to a ministry, you will agree with me that now you have to come before Parliament from time to time to account for the ministries or your stewardship in the ministry. Again, I am aware that under your able leadership, you have extended, as it were, an invitation to other stakeholders in the security architecture by way of even inviting previous security gurus in the previous administration to make inputs in decision making. How would you want hitherto known as National Security Secretariat, now Ministry of National Security, to operate as a ministry?
Honorable Chairman, for many years we did have the National Security Secretariat, and there was a law that supported it. Over the years, 2 attempts had been made to try to move it from a secretariat to a ministry. And Honorable Chairman will probably remember that the Honorable Tutubi Kwache did become the Minister for National Security before, in addition to being the coordinator. And you will also remember that the Honorable Francis Poku also was made a minister. But in all those cases, the governments at the time did not go ahead to replace the National Service Secretariat with a ministry that is legislating to that effect. What we have done this year, when over the past 4 years, when the president took a ministry to run the secretariat, is that we have come up with a law that has now transferred all the powers under the secretariat to the ministry. And what was at the back of the mind of the president was that way the institution, the intelligence agencies, become more accountable, in that as a minister you will be called upon to go to Parliament as and when necessary to respond to questions, which is something that you wouldn't be able to do if you have just the coordinator. So I think it's been a worthwhile achievement. And again, I'm not just trying to be clever here, but let me say that I must congratulate members of Parliament for the support that they gave, the input that they gave. The Honorable Agalga will probably agree that he was very much involved in every single page and every single sentence, in the process even taking out some of the things that I thought were so important. But it was done in a manner that I think calls for congratulations. And not only that, not only the parliamentary committee, we did have some very, very experienced security experts who had served for the NDC in the past, also giving us technical direction and guidance. We do now have a law which we think can stand the test of the time and which will make the ministry accountable to Parliament and therefore to the people of Ghana. We are aware of efforts being made for this August House also to have a special committee on intelligence, members of whom would have taken the oath of secrecy and as a result, we will be able to share with them very, very confidential intelligence reports and other security reports. Our association with the committee in the past has proved very useful, and I'm excited that you add on during the period that I've been here is to try to demystify all these stories about national security. And I think Parliament should continue to insist that we remain very transparent, more accountable to the people without losing sight of the very, very essential work that we have to do and the secrecy that must go with it.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the nominee in 2017 appeared before the appointment committee and indicated to us that the Ministry of National Security under his watch, if given the nod, will focus on security-related issues like illegal mining and post-election violence. I remember vividly how he emphasized some items, including excavators. Can you share with the committee the number of excavators seized, the number of the seized excavators that disappeared, and the results of the efforts you made towards retrieving those excavators?
Yes, Honourable Minister. First of all, are you aware that any excavators disappeared?
Mr. Chairman, there has been that allegation, but let me put it this way, because a lot of things have been said about the anti-galamsey efforts of this government and whether it has been successful or not. Honourable Chairman, you will recall that the President was so bold as to say that even if it would cost his defeat in an election, he will say go ahead and stop this degradation of the forest and the environment and all the problems that went with it. And we did make quite an effort to try to solve it, including the committee that he has just referred to. I still want to believe that we did achieve quite a lot of success, but at the same time, the problem continues to be there. It's not fully resolved, which means that we have a lot to do in that area. And I can assure the honourable member that it's not just a question of whether the government wants to do it. In the interest of Ghana, we must stop this thing. We need to be able to stop the attack on the forests, the damage we're doing to the river bodies and the rivers in this country. It is simply not sustainable, and we need to find a way to stop it. Honourable Chairman, we must also recognize that it's a very difficult area. In some parts of Ghana, these, what you call galamsey activities, have gone on for years. In some places, over 100 years. Except that they were not as destructive as they are now. So to say that you just ban galamsey activities wholesale like that, you are obviously going to have a problem. At the same time, you cannot allow the mess that we were witnessing to go on without any action. So I think government was right in taking all those bold actions that we do. I think we did have a lot of success. I think it has become clear that we still have a lot to do. This effort at community mining that we are instituting, I hope, can help to solve the problem. And yes, there has also been this reports that there were some excavators that have not been accounted for. Honorable Chairman, as you can imagine, government is interested in knowing the truth, and all necessary investigations are going on for us to be able to know what the truth is. And I think at the appropriate time, Ghanaians will be advised of the outcome of these investigations. It isn't something that we can ever push under the carpet. We can't.
Chairman, just Minister nominee. The investigation is still ongoing, not conclusive yet on missing galamseys. Is that what you are suggesting?
No, to the extent that the report has not been published, it's not finished.
So when should we expect the report?
We're doing everything possible to speed up. But a report that just comes to wash things on the surface, we believe won't do any good to the country. We try to have a comprehensive work done so that we can put a stop to this. Every Ghanaian must be concerned about the mess that was going on.
Honorable Minister, are you implying that as we speak, you do not have an idea as to the number of excavators seized, the number that disappeared, and what is being done to retrieve them? You don't have any idea?
Well, I have lots of ideas. I mean, every day, whatever discovery there is, whatever new possible end up on my desk at the National Security Ministry. So, of course, I do have figures. But to the extent that they are not concluded, I'm unable to give you figures. We still need to do some more investigation.
Then my second question, Honorable Nominee. That was just a follow-up question, just small one. The task force, as we are told in the budget, was made up of over 400 security personnel mandated to ensure that Galamsey is wiped out from our land. Honorable Minister, can you tell this committee the total expenditure the Ghanaian taxpayer incurred on the activities of this task force?
Clearly, quite a lot of amount would have been spent on this, which is very unfortunate. But I think that the test is whether it was necessary. Given the problem that we wanted to solve that type of money, and that big effort that was made to stop it once and for all, I think was good and should be repeated if it becomes necessary. You are worried about the fact that today we have not seen complete satisfaction, and therefore the problem has not been satisfactorily resolved. Yes. But do you know what would have happened if there had been no such intervention at all? We probably would have found ourselves in a much, much worse situation than we find it now. So I agree with you. I share your concerns. And I believe we owe it to the people of Ghana to try to solve this particular problem, and not just solve it, to try to address the problems that came with it, with these allegations of equipment cannot be accounted for, and so on and so forth. We will do what deserves to be done, Honorable Member.
Honorable Minister, my question was very specific. The total expenditure incurred on the activities of the task force. You said big money, just the figure.
But you know, Honorable Chairman, you know, I'm certainly not the right person to be able to give a specific figure on what was spent. I mean, the money would not have been spent from my ministry, and therefore I'm unable to give that. But like all Ghanaians, I share the concern that yes, huge amounts of money must have been spent in the exercise, and that is why I keep referring to it. We must get value for money. We will continue to ensure that that is achieved.
And my last question. Honorable Nominee, as a National Security Minister, I know you have crafted people-centered national security strategy. Can you share with the committee some few highlights of this strategy with emphasis on measures to achieving full security in this COVID era?
Honorable Chairman, you may recall that the last time that I addressed Parliament, I did, in response to a question, mention that we were putting up, upon the specific request of the President, we were putting up a national security strategy, and that when it was ready, we would let Ghanaians know about it, we will launch it. That is exactly what we have done, and Honorable Chairman, the document I'm holding here is the national security strategy that the Honorable Member refers to. It's a matter of pride to us, it being the first time that we're going to have a national security strategy document like this. And in fact, other countries in West Africa are already talking to us to see how they can do some. Honorable Chairman, ensuring peace, ensuring safety of its people, and also territorial integrity, this is a main objective of every government. And over the years, from the colonial times, through Nkrumah, through the military regimes, every government has done that. Measures to ensure that there is peace, there is safety for the people of the country, and also that we do have territorial integrity. It's been a key objective of any government. And all these governments have done their best. We've not had any real security challenge in this country before. So to that extent, we have all been very, very good in achieving this objective. What is different this time is that all these governments have done this without any documented strategy. The President did announce during the campaign, and therefore became a campaign issue in the run-up to the 2016 elections, that there was a need for a published national security strategy document, and that was a campaign promise. What we do have is in fulfillment of that promise, and once again, it will be inappropriate not to mention the contribution that has been made to this document by former security gurus in this house, in this country, and also by the committee that we had the pleasure of working with. And when I mention his name again, it is not for any hidden motive, but we want to acknowledge the contribution that the ranking member and also the chairman of the committee did give to us, in producing this document. So basically, the document underlines the unique of the risks and the threats that confront Ghana, and how we plan to respond to those risks and threats. We have identified the role that has to be played by various stakeholders: civil society, academia, the media. And not only that, we have also identified the roles that various ministries and government agencies will play. Honorable Chairman, there's a chapter that deals with the role that we expect Parliament
just a second.
to also...
Honorable nominee, I believe that you know that a lettered and a half step is not irregular. A lettered and a half step is not irregular. Thank you.
Let me just say that, yes, we do have that document, and we will now try to implement the plans that we have captured in the document.
For those who are, you have one, who else? Because asked a question earlier. All right. Let me start with the honorable member for Abdul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on being nominated again for the same position by His Excellency, the President. I just want to start by saying that I first met the nominee when I was in first year in the university of Ghana. That was many years ago. I just want to take us back to the insecurity in the region, with particular reference to what we're doing for our own border security.
They had a grouping, and they were receiving support from the West for them to fight the terrorists. There is another one, the Lake Chad Basin, also had an association. Nigeria, Cameroon, and other one or two other countries, they also had a similar thing. It was conspicuous that countries such as Benin, such as Burkina, such as Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana, we were operating on our own. And we thought we couldn't be that strong operating on our own. So the president suggested at an ECOWAS meeting that we also should have an association which will plan together the best way of strategizing for the challenges that we face as far as terrorism is concerned. The first meeting was convened by the president in Accra, the presidents of Burkina Faso, of Togo, of Benin, of Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana. They met here and agreed that there should be an institution to be called the Accra Initiative. That is how the Accra Initiative came about. It is therefore an attempt by the countries in the sub-region to find some sort of closer collaboration. And what have we been doing? During the period that is being in place, we have trained our soldiers and our security operatives together. We've had operations involving Cote d'Ivoire, soldiers from Cote d'Ivoire, from Ghana, from Togo, all undertaking one same operation. And I must say that has been very useful. And the offices for the Accra Initiative will be open very soon. In Accra, we will have the office here. We will have people coming from all the other ECOWAS, all the other member countries to be represented. And we think it's a very, very good way of preparing for the terrorist threat.
And last question. Again, from your handing over notes, you have listed comprehensively the projects of the ministry and then agencies that you superintend over. I want to find out, is the Accra Intelligence Traffic Monitoring System under your mandate? I recall that the government spent 737 million Ghana cedis to purchase a system for monitoring traffic in town.
Honorable Chairman, there are two projects, and we need to separate them. There is the Alpha project, which is what the government spent that much money on. In fact, the previous government, the NDC government, spent that much money on and built that very, very useful facility for us that enables us to plant cameras at various places in the fight against crime. It's working very well. The infrastructure is there. In recent times, we have seen that there is another project, Accra Traffic Intelligent Monitoring System, which was going to be administered by the Ministry for Roads and Highways. we have said to them that the infrastructure that you seek to acquire, it is already there. So instead of spending that much money to start it all over again, let us make use of what we have with the Alpha project. I know it's created some controversy and people go around trying to misrepresent the facts, but as far as I'm concerned, we would have wasted money if we put up an infrastructure similar to what we have and which is working so well and which has the capacity to absorb what it is that we want to do.
Yes, Honorable Biama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Minister, congratulations for being nominated again to serve in this very crucial sector and capacity. I'm more interested in cyber security. Indeed, the impression I get is that even though various sectors like Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Communications, National Security, they are making every effort to ensure that we have adequate cyber security, we still appear to have some challenges. Sometimes people have access to all sorts of records and all sorts of private numbers, etc. Now, if you speak to some of the agencies, it will appear we may need more collaboration, and some of them even think that we are not investing so much when it comes to cyber security. What's the way forward without maybe telling us so much to compromise what you're also doing? What is the way forward in addressing some of these challenges in the cyber security sector?
Mr. Chairman, we have a huge problem as far as cyber security is concerned. And it dropped on us all of a sudden. Very, very big challenge. We have various agencies, all of which attempted to try to find a solution. But we realized that all of them had challenges. Challenges in the sense that they didn't have the real expertise that was needed. The President therefore directed, and we agreed with him 100%, that looking around the government machinery, where do we have the best resources and capacity? We realized it was the Ministry of Communications that had it. So we decided to shift the responsibility to the Ministry of Communications. In the process, we were bound to advise all the other agencies to go slowly, while the Ministry of Communication determines for us what is the best course of action for all these agencies. See, there's a lot of procurement involved, Honorable Chairman, and if you are not careful, these marketing experts will come from nowhere and sell all sorts of things to the various agencies without us having a proper understanding of the nature of the program. That is why it was necessary to have that unit within the Ministry of Communication, and it is now their responsibility to advise the other agencies on how best to prepare themselves for the challenges that come with cyber.
Your mic. Honorable Minister, so given the scenario that you've given, from your answer, we seem to get the impression that you're waiting on Minister of Communications for us to move forward. How quickly and effectively do we have to address this when you have said that indeed there's a huge problem and a big challenge in that sector?
Well, Honorable Chairman, the beauty of it is that the Ministry of Communication and its cyber security unit is already up and running. They're doing wonderful work. They had the expertise already, and they have started with implementation, and things are working very well. So even though we're not doing very well in the other agencies, they are feeding us on a regular basis. And in fact, Honorable Agaga may probably find out that this was the reason why we insisted that the Interministerial Committee of Security Agencies should include the Minister for Communication. So in fact, the Minister for Communication is now a regular feature of the fortnightly meetings of the security ministers, that is Interior, National Security, Defense. She is also very much part of it. So they are already up and running.
Thank you so much. I remember very well during President Kufuor's time, one issue which came up as probably a security threat was youth unemployment. That's how come we ended up with National Youth Employment Authority, all those things, just to address the issue of insecurity arising out of youth unemployment. How far do you think that this is still an issue, and what's the way forward?
It remains an issue, and it remains a very, very big issue. Once you have a system where people come out of the universities and for the next 4 or 5 years, they will not get jobs. They will just be walking around without any money after coming out of the university. Obviously, you have a huge security problem, a huge security challenge. It's been recognized for years, and that is why we have made all sort of efforts to try to get jobs for the youth. People have said some of them are not sustainable, but it was worth doing it. An unemployed graduate after 4 or 5 years can only become a security threat. And it's made much worse by the advent of these internet and computers. By the time they come out, all of them are very, very good in the use of the internet and the computers. Therefore, they can use it to undertake all sort of internet fraud. So, youth unemployment, we classify it as a major security challenge, probably as challenging as armed robbery and whatever. And therefore, we urge all government institutions to try to help solve the problem of unemployment for the youth.
Yes. Put it at the top.
Most grateful, Chairman, and let me also congratulate the nominee, and to say by way of preliminary remarks that the presidency will have to take note of the appropriate rendition of the nominee's name. After all these years, some of these mistakes cannot be accepted, and the nominee will also have to reconcile portions of his current CV with what he submitted to us 4 years ago. Reference can be made to the 26th January 2017 Hansard. It will guide the nominee and for our records for consistency. For example, the year you left UPSA, your CV 4 years ago said 1972, but the current one says 1973. So some of those inconsistencies can be checked on later on. I will proceed with my first question, which is a simple one. The invasion of Parliament, you say it was the decision of a commander who has come under investigation. Can you give us the name of that commander?
Fortunately, I don't quite remember the name of the commander. I can find it out for you, but I don't have it here. But I thought, Honorable Chairman, I thought you were going to start by recognizing that I'm your father, and that under normal circumstances, you should not even sit here and be asking me questions. He's my son.
I can confirm that the nominee has known me since my childhood days, growing up in Dansoman. But the Son of Man must do his job. So the honorable nominee will have to come with me as I focus on two deployments that happened under his watch as National Security Minister. The first one was during the registration of voters, which created considerable confusion. Some persons in government said that the deployment had to do with COVID, preventing the importation through our land borders. In my region, the Volta region, others said it was to prevent foreigners, Togolese, Beninois, from coming into Ghana to vote. It appears the defense minister later on put out what he said is the official government position, that it had to do with COVID-19. I hold in my hands now the COVID-19 daily situational report from the Volta Regional Health Directorate. At the time you deployed that COVID-19 operation, the troops, the heavy deployment of troops, which former President Rawlings, by the way, raised concern about, God bless his soul, and many other chiefs in the region, including the Volta caucus in Parliament and the larger NDC caucus in Parliament. We had 28 cases, COVID cases at that time, and 0 deaths. Now we have, as at 9 February, the current SITREP, 292 cases and 13 deaths. And yet the soldiers have vanished. There is no deployment currently in the region. How do you convince some of us who were quite suspicious about that particular deployment that there were other intentions behind the deployment?
Mr. Chairman, I really have to check and find out whether, in fact, the soldiers have deserted the place. But there is something that needs to be explained, and I'm sorry if I spend some time. Give me about 2-3 minutes to explain. Honorable Chairman, 3 things happened at the same time, and it created a lot of confusion on the border with Togo. We sent soldiers there. The main reason why we sent the soldiers there initially was because of this fight against terrorism. We had concentrated on the northern border, close to Burkina Faso. And still when you go there today, we have quite a number of soldiers there. We thought that any infiltration would come through Burkina Faso and into Ghana, and that they will pass through that route. Neighboring countries had done the same thing. Ivory Coast had also strengthened its borders with Burkina Faso, and Benin had done the same thing. 2 things then happened. There was an attack in Benin, and they didn't use that route where they were expecting them to pass and where they had sort of fortified the borders. Then there was another attack in Côte d'Ivoire, and again, the terrorists did not use the border that everybody knew they will use. Armed with this information, we took the decision at the National Security Council that no. It would be wrong to keep troops only at the northern border. They can come through any other place. So please keep troops on all the borders, all the land borders in Ghana. Please get troops there. As a result, we sent troops to the border with Togo, just as we sent troops to the border with Côte d'Ivoire. So that was why we sent them there. At around that time, because of COVID, we had said the borders were shut and we wouldn't allow people to come into Ghana. So they were given another responsibility, make sure that people don't also cross into Ghana. Then in the middle of all this, there was the need for voter registration. And there were soldiers there in their numbers, in a manner that alarmed the caucus, the Volta caucus, and in a manner that alarmed and annoyed the chiefs. And Honorable Chairman, he is right. I was summoned by President Rawlings, who asked me how I could do that. And after I had explained to him the need for us to fortify all our borders, he said to me, do you ever talk to the press? Go and talk to them. You need to explain this. And I started talking to some of them. The honorable member, for instance, we explained it to him. We explained it to Honorable Aveji and to other people, and I took it up upon myself to go to meet the Volta Regional House of Chiefs. Indeed, when this problem with the Western Togoland people came, we thought it was Volta region that wanted to secede. For when we went to meet the chiefs, they said no. Our annoyance is because you marginalize us. You do things that is not befitting to our people. An example they quoted was that you signed soldiers there when you knew you were coming to register. Right. But after I explained to them why I needed the soldiers there, because of the threat of the terrorists, they agreed, and since then we've been able to work with them. So that is the challenge that we had there, and I think this is an opportunity to explain to Ghanaians that it had nothing to do with the voter registration. Yes, it has something to do with COVID, but the main reason was trying to make sure that the terrorists don't infiltrate into our country. The honorable member says that the soldiers have disappeared. I need to check on that. I'll be surprised. But I'm not saying he's lying, but I will want to find out if that indeed is the case. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I can assure the nominee that I was in the region over the weekend and leadership.
Chairman, the Minister-designate has used a very strong word. I'm not saying he's lying. That is not parliamentary. Moreover, when he hasn't provided his counter information, I find the word, I'm not saying he's lying, too strong as a response. If you are saying that you subject what he's saying to your counter, letting us know the truth, we would accept that as more palatable for our purposes. We don't find that word parliamentary enough, Chairman.
I take that. I just wanted to emphasize that I don't think he's giving me false information, but that I don't believe that is the case. So thank you very much for the correction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can assure the nominee that I'm just from the region, and the kind of deployment we saw in June is there's no such deployment as I speak, for the record, and I'm willing to be taking on this matter. As a follow-up, I said we'll talk about two deployments. The second deployment is what characterized the 2020 elections. Many observer reports have talked about the heavy militarization of our elections. And I have in my hand here the result of that heavy militarization, security invasions of collation centers. 7 Ghanaians lost their lives. Tajuddin Al-Hassan, 39 years old, in Techiman South. Abdallah Ayarik, 18 years old, Techiman South. Emmanuel Dompre, 36 years old, Ododio constituency. Samira Zakaria, 14 years old, Savalugu constituency. Ibrahim Abbas, 30 years old, Ablekuma Central. Rita Otu, 15 years old, Odio, caught in the melee. 7th casualty, Fuseni Musa, 14 years old, and the people of the Savlugu Rodatu at Far Primary School. And Mr. Chairman, if you allow me, I have their pictures here. With the nominee can
what would their pictures do to the question?
The pictures will confirm that these are real young men and women. They are
I'm sure the nominee has the security report, so he will be
there are some who have said that these were armed robbers and all of that.
Honourable Member, I have made a statement which has been misreported. If you want a debate on that, we'll do it on another platform. But for now, the Minister can answer the question, please.
So,
thank you.
So these lives that have been lost, I'm not aware that investigations have been instituted, that any of these soldiers who shot these unarmed, harmless civilians have been interdicted. Are we saying that when elections come upon us, some people have the license to kill, and that impunity can reign in the land, and they will get away with such heinous crimes? You are National Security Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. Honorable Chairman, what the Honorable Member did not add was that also during the elections, we had a lot of military presence in the Volta region, and especially in his constituency. The reason being that we had very, very good intelligence that the people of Western Togoland, the activists of the Western Togoland, said they were going to cause some confusion there. So the soldiers were sent there for that purpose. Beyond that, and as he said, yes, we did have some election-related violence of a sort in various places. He mentions Odududu constituency. Yes, Honorable Chairman, on the 8th of December 2020, 2 persons, Emmanuel Dompre, whose picture he just showed, age 36, and then Taki Buchi, age 16, were shot dead during the counting of ballot papers in Odududu constituency. 6 others also received injuries from the same shooting incidents. Honorable Chairman, action has been taken, as a result of which 5 suspects have been arrested and arraigned before court, charged with murder. They have since been remanded into police custody. I must also add that 32 others have been arrested and they have been charged for causing unlawful damage, and investigations are currently ongoing. It is therefore not right, not true to say that no action has been taken on the shooting incident at Odududu constituency. There was another one, Honorable Chairman, at Tichiman South constituency, which happened at the collation center of that constituency. And that again was on the 8th of December 2020, where there was a violent protest by a mob of party activists, which included throwing of stones, firing of gunshots by unknown assailants, which disrupted the collation of the election results at Tichiman South constituency. The police needed to do something, and in the police and the other security agencies, and in an attempt to disperse the people who were rioting, the security personnel on duty apparently fired some shots, and these shots resulted in the injuries of 8 male adults, which included Abdullahi Ayarek, 18 years, and Mohammed Tajuddin, age 41. Unfortunately, Mr. Honorable Chairman, the 2 individuals were rushed to the hospital for treatment, but they were pronounced dead on arrival. This is a well-known case in Techiman, it will be absolutely impossible to just push it under the carpet. Investigations are going. Some of these investigations can take time, especially when there's shooting from a mob and a big crowd. You need time to do the investigation. I can assure the honorable member that investigations are going on and all of us are committed. If it's any consolation, I can assure you that anytime I do my briefing, the president demands that I tell him where we have reached with the investigations. That is how important it is to us. Then, again, there was another shooting incident at the entrance of the Odoko police station. Also, the same day, 8 December 2020. This was at the entrance of the Odoko Police Church, which was a designated collation center for Ablikuma Central Constituency during the general elections. And the incident was as a result of allegations leveled against an EC official for moving some pink sheets out of the confines of the collation center. This annoyed the mob, and they reacted by throwing stones at the EC officials and the security personnel present. The security personnel tried to bring the situation under control, and in the process, they fired some warning shots. 2 persons were hit and were both rushed to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital for treatment. Abbas Ibrahim was one of the victims, and he was later pronounced dead at the hospital. We are told that the firing must have come probably from a military officer, but he is yet to be identified. Once again, Honorable Chairman, this is such a high-profile case that it cannot be left without being investigated. And I can assure you that investigations are currently going on, and Honorable Member, we are equally concerned that we should get to the root of the matters.
Mr. Chairman, I would want to place on record that the Minority Caucus has video evidence of all these shootings captured by the media, and we will tender it, and I'm sure that it can help the minister in his investigation. So we will tender this, and we want to table it now. Video evidence, you see the soldiers, and we challenge the narrative on Techiman South. They were not throwing stones and shooting at people. They were unarmed, just following the counting. So, Mr. Minister, you may have to take a second look at the report that you have been given. When you watch these videos, you don't see what you have been told and what you have narrated to us. So we'll tender it in. Now, I come to...
What is the purpose of tendering or tabling the video evidence?
It is to present an alternative narrative from what the minister has told this committee. Because I have said for the record that that narrative he has been given, particularly on Techiman South, cannot be true. The soldier who they say has not been identified, you will identify him here clearly. Clearly.
Hold on.
He's Chairman, known to somebody.
Chairman, probably, if I have Chairman's indulgence, next time probably we should go high-tech, and the IT department of Parliament may be required to play. But knowing the personality can Dapaah, I have no doubt that what the Honorable Ablakwa is doing is to submit what will assist further investigation. So we trust that when you direct that it be referred to him. Because, for instance, with Ododo Dio, Minister will encourage you to take particular interest. Probably even those who have been arrested and arraigned before court may not be the real and actual perpetrators of what took place leading to the death of our party agents. So if to the extent that this can help, so give it to Chairman. Because of the person involved, we are simply saying that we have additional information that can assist further investigation, and that we are firm in demanding justice for all those persons who lost their life as a consequence of excess action of the military and the police. So the chairman will direct you to give it to the minister. This campaign, he should just further his investigation guided by what we have. We will follow through this particular process even as we undertake this. So maybe next time we'll let the IT play it for our purposes.
Honourable members, is anybody alleging that the minister was at any of these locations? No. Can I? Is anybody alleging that the minister was one of the persons who alleged to have shot?
No.
So, if anybody has information that will assist him in his investigation, it is not part of this exercise.
It is ultimate responsibility. He's Minister for National Security. Ultimate responsibility. We are not holding him personally responsible.
Can I
listen
to everybody? But can I control this meeting? Good. Right. No, the point I'm making is that what we're doing now is considering the nomination of Honorable Dapaah. If anybody is alleging that he has said something which he claims to have personally witnessed, but which is not true, then you present something to challenge his credibility. What he's giving you is a report. You're saying you have evidence that is different to the report he has. That is, if he is affirmed, it's an open to him or opportunity for him to look at the evidence that has been placed before him. It is not the same thing as saying you are lying and therefore I have a different evidence. I think we should know the difference. And so, yes, that information, if we confirm him, will be useful in verifying or comparing with what is before him. But certainly, it is not useful for the purpose of considering his nomination unless we are alleging that he is personally... Unless you are alleging
but
that
Chairman, he was the National Security Minister.
Unless we are alleging that one is lying, or two, that he was one of the people who have perpetrated any of the acts we are complaining about. If not, all we're doing is providing information to counter what information has been given to him in order to prepare work on his investigation.
Chairman, I've heard your guidance, and be assured that since we started, the meeting has been cooperatively and ably regulated by you. So I'll be surprised if you say you've been controlling the meeting. But we have every right to disagree with your reasoning. He is minister responsible for national security, under whose watch elections were conducted. Together with ministers for interior and defense, they came to parliament, gave us a national task force for elections. Arising out of the elections, lives have been lost. It is assuring listening to him that some actions are being taken, and in particular the president is following. We further assured him that we're also following. So I don't think that we cannot find out from him, safety and security of every Ghanaian. He's a primary person. He is Minister for Defense and Interior. We would demand those questions as part of the accountability process. We are not in any way associating him with it, but we are taxing him, law enforcement, to thoroughly and properly and impartially investigate these matters and punish those persons who may be deemed criminal. That's all we are doing, Chairman, so we shouldn't belabor the matter.
We are talking to the same point. We are agreed on what to do, except that this information, kindly give it to him. He will use it in comparing with his report. It will help in his investigation. That's all. Please proceed.
I'm grateful, Chairman, and Honorable Minister, I would let you have it. I want to revisit the matter of the Accra Intelligent Traffic Management Project. I hold in my hands a report of the Infrastructure Subcommittee of the 2020 Presidential Team, dated December 29, 2020. Under the road subsector, page 19, item numbered 4.6, critical issues for attention of the sector for the next 100 days. The report states, termination of the agreement between the Ministry of Roads and Highways, represented by the Department of Urban Roads and Beijing Everyway Traffic and Lighting Technology Company Limited for the Accra Intelligent Traffic Management Project. A contract was signed in 2018 for the project, and 2 interim certificates have been raised, which are yet to be honored. However, through government policy, a new agreement for the same services was signed between the government of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of National Security, and Huawei Technologies Company Limited, and China National Import and Export Corporation. This narrative appears quite different from what you told the Honorable Muhammad Yarega. This is signed by the Honorable Roads Minister. And you do know that it's created some diplomatic concerns, especially as you are now going with Huawei, and you know the challenges Huawei is having in Europe and America. As former Foreign Affairs ranking member, I know that this matter is causing quite some consternation. How are you going to clean this matter up? There's looming judgment debt and all of these diplomatic ramifications. The Roads Minister says within 100 days, this must be cleaned up. Your response, Honorable Minister.
Yes, I'm aware of this controversy. I can also point out to you that it is totally untrue that 2 invoices have issued and is it paid or what, outstanding. You only issue an invoice when you would have started the work. They have not done any work whatsoever. You know, that's what they say. I'm telling you that having studied the program, they have not done any work whatsoever. Honorable Member, our position on national security is this, that we are going to spend money to put up the same infrastructure that we have already. I know the concerns from the Ministry of Road and Transport that they should continue to manage the project and put up another infrastructure. I don't see why we should put up another infrastructure when we have it already. Instead, I can use that money to buy additional cameras. We had about 2,000 cameras under the Alpha project when we came. We have recently added some 8,000 or adding some 8,000. The money that they are going to use for the traffic intelligence management system, we can do it for them from the existing infrastructure and then use that money to buy more cameras or other equipment. It's as simple as that. And Honourable Member, I would want you to get more involved with this case and advise us whether what we are saying is not in the best interest of Ghana. I think it is. But I must also admit that I know of the concerns from the civil servants at the Ministry of Roads and Highways.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Honorable Obama.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Congratulations, Minister. Minister, I believe you drive around Accra and parts of the country regularly. And if you drive around North Ridge, Abeka, La Paz, airport traffic lights, Abosokan area, Sukura, you come across a group of young children with elderly women and sometimes elderly men, the street corners of Accra and those parts of the country. Some beg, some knock on your windscreens aggressively and what have you. if you look at some of them are from Nigeria, some Ghanaians, and Malians. It's becoming alarming and scary. What plans do you have to address these challenges together with the Interior Minister, Gender and Social Protection Minister, and the local authorities? Thank you.
We have, in a couple of reports, drawn the attention of the security implications of what you have just described. In addition to that, we have recently asked our critical thinking unit to look at this program and tell us just what is the nature of the program and how best we can solve it. Honorable Chairman, we're talking of these young boys, girls, and their parents. They are all over. When the boys, girls grow to become 8, 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, they don't go to school. So what do they do when they get to that age? Do they get back to Mali, to Niger, where they came from? Or do they have something to try to do in Ghana? And can they be engaged in criminal activities? We're trying to understand the real nature of this, and we do have a study going on by our critical thinking unit to assess the situation for us. But I can agree with the honorable member that is something that we should watch today. Otherwise, we may not want to watch it in future.
Thank you. Chairman, I want to refer the nominee to Act 1030, the Securities and Intelligence Act of 2020, which you pulled through Parliament. Under Sections 49D. Let's start from 49A. Threats to national security. A. List of intelligence or sabotage that is against the Republic. B. Foreign influenced activities. C. Activities within or relating to the Republic directed towards serious or violent persons or property. D. That's where I'll be dwelling on. Cybercrime in the nature of Roman 1, online information theft, identity theft, online predatory crime, cyber terrorism, hacking, and it goes on to Roman 2 on computer access and other domestic or foreign origins, violent extremism. Honorable Minister-designate, we are in the process of developing a cashless society. Some of our credit cards are rejected by various financial institutions out there. IP addresses are rejected by various internet service providers and websites. It's an issue that I think you must give us the assurance and address us on some of these challenges that I have alluded to. Thank you.
Honorable Chairman, I think he has said it all. This is one area where we really want to be very careful. This is one area where we ourselves have identified that we need to be very, very careful and find good solution to it. As I said, for now, we do have under the Ministry of Communication a very, very competent unit which is trying to address the problems for us. And it's good that the Minister-designate for Communications is also here, and I want to share this concern with her.
Chairman, last question. The National Security and Communications Enhancement Network Project, that's the Alpha Project. You were fortunate during the last parliament, I think in 2019, we approved a sum of $200 million. And you came back and we also gave a tax waiver of about $49 million. Can you give us an indication of where we've gotten to with this project? Thank you.
Honorable Chairman, it's always said that whenever there's a crime in these developed countries, within minutes, the police are able to know who did it and exactly where it happened. To a large extent, it is because they are able to use technology in their search for such criminals. The Alpha project, a project which we inherited when we came, is one of the most effective intelligence projects that we have had in this country. We had about 1,000 to 1,400 cameras when we came, and as I said, from the monies that you mentioned, we're going to add about 8,500. If we can resolve the problem over the traffic intelligent management that he talked about, we will probably be able to add even more cameras. But out of the 8,500 or so cameras that we are expecting under this particular project, today we are about 60–70% complete, and in many of the areas we have the cameras which are working. There are some high-profile murder cases that we've not been able to solve. I always say to myself, if only we had cameras around the area, we would have solved them by now. So it's a very, very important project.
Chairman, if I have your indulgence, just a little follow-up to Honorable Patrick. Minister, in your answer, you have identified the problem, and I'm happy yourself, a former Minister for Communication is here. And I just want to share this. I'll have my bite when we come to Alpha, and I'll respond to some of the issues. Now, in the U.S., as you've said, if the police arrest you, all they need while sitting in their car is to press a knob. Then one, because national ID systems work, and data synchronization works. In Ghana, you have silos. The DVLA is having its own data. The NCA is keeping another data. Health Insurance Authority is keeping another data. So I can agree more with you that we need to deploy technology. But technology that synchronizes all this data so that when and again, for instance, that was a policy blueprint of SIM registration, because anonymous crime became very prevalent in the country. Somebody just sends you a text and insults you and then throws away the chip. Now, I think that DVLA, you would have to rope them in, all those who get driver license. You have their identity. You tie it to national ID. The NCA shares their data. Then when you deploy that into your Alpha and other technology, where you have broadband, we'll be able to assess the criminal. But to do that, Minister, like you initially noted, you have to deploy fiber across the country. I'm sure you probably, with Professor Okwe, started it. It was further enhanced. But my worry is, it is one thing stating the problem and wanting to solve it. How do you intend to solve this?
Thank you very much, and of course, I agree with you entirely. We probably need to put in place a super highway. We do have the optic fibers scattered all over the country, belonging to different agencies, most of them government institutions. We need to be able to pull all of them together and develop, if you like, a super highway. And I think I can confirm that the Minister of Communication did submit a proposal to government in the last government And I think it's some of the plans that they have to implement a very useful project, and I can only hope that it goes along.
Yes, Mrs. Ofusajarias.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, honorable nominee, for your re-nomination. I take you back to Ayawaso, and I take you straight to the government paper on the Emil Short white paper, government white paper on the Emil Short Committee. If you look at page 23, especially at the paragraph numbered 6.4a, government agreed that compensation must be paid to the following people: Mr. Theophilus Sedo, and that is on page 64, recommendation 9.1. James Mohammed Yaro, for the reckless gunshots that they received on that fateful day. The government white paper further agreed that for the loss of property to the owner of car registration number GE 384417 and the registration number 104517, and finally to a beauty salon owner, Mrs. Shi. Government agreed that compensation should be paid to these people. Can you apprise us where we are on that? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Chairman. As was said earlier, government was unable to accept the report in its entirety, but there were certain areas where they accepted, government accepted to take some actions, including what the honorable member has just said. The difficulty is that the commission did not work out the exact compensation that is to be paid to these people. We are therefore having to go through the system. The government processes of finding out compensation payable under such circumstances can be cumbersome, and that is what they have been doing over all these months. But we accept in principle that it should be paid. It is not something that will be paid from my ministry. It will be paid between the Attorney General and the Ministry of Finance, and like you, I continue to urge them that it is important that if we have accepted responsibility, and we have clearly said so in the white paper, then we should pay these people as well as the owners of the vehicle and also the beauty salon. I can assure you, Madam, that I personally will also follow it up if I go back to the ministry on this matter.
Thank you very much, but we all agree that it's been about 2 years now.
Not quite. It's not been about 2 years. This thing happened, the report itself came 14th March 2019, but it took some time. It took some time for the white paper to be issued. I think the white paper only came on 13th September 2019. So it's not quite 2 years, it's about a year. But a year is still too long, and I agree with you that we should speed it up. I promise we will. I will contact the Attorney General on this matter.
I was saying that it's about 2 years now since the incident happened.
Since the incident happened,
yes.
But since the order was given.
No, so I'm saying that it's about 2 years now since the injury occurred.
I wouldn't
yes.
argue on
and
that.
So I'll be happy if we expedite that one. Okay. Then this issue of rampant use of MPs' names as well as ministers' names to open Facebook pages, and then, please, Facebook pages, and using ministers' name and MPs' name to, please, to ensure that they get money, extort money from unsuspecting people. What is national security doing about this to ensure that our names are not used to dupe unsuspecting people for procuring visas and giving them jobs. This is a national security matter, and I think that the National Security Minister-designate should try and do something about it. And we want to know what you do about it.
Honorable Chairman, we are aware of this problem. If it is any consolation to the honorable member, our own names are used on a daily basis to do that. But again, I'm aware that at the cybersecurity unit under the Ministry of Communications, they are working on it. They are able to help you to stop it immediately if you report it to them. But we need to go beyond that to make it impossible for people, the fraudsters, to do such things. So we agree with you. We work on that.
Honorable Minister, one fallout, or should I say problem associated with that is that however well you try, the numbers which are used, the mobile numbers that are used to defraud people, the telcos have the record, but they will not assist you. They will not assist you trace who is doing that. They will find all kinds of excuses to outwit you. How do we deal with that? The telcos whose system are being used to defraud people, whose system are being used to create names and that. How do we make sure that they assist in investigations?
Honorable Chairman, they have always cited the need for them to protect the privacy of their customers, but on a day-to-day basis, we're fighting with them on this matter, and we're hoping that we can come by a solution sooner or later. We do not entirely disagree with them that they must protect the privacy of their customers. But when it comes to instances where fraud has been perpetrated, we think they should be more accommodating than they have been so far. We are talking to them constantly. When I say we, I'm probably saying the Minister of Communication is talking to them. I do know that they are talking to them on this matter.
Do you think legislation can make a difference?
Food for thought.
Very well. Yes, please continue.
Thank you very much. I know why I asked the National Security Minister and not the Minister for Communication, because when I was Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, I remember a fake account was opened for me. I couldn't get help with the telcos, but I think that the National Security Minister should be able to help in that direction. I know it's very painful. Now we are MPs. You get to hear that people are using your name to take monies to offer jobs which do not exist. So I think that the national security, as a matter of urgency, should take it up. And whatever it takes for you to stop, please do. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Dapaah, one of your sons here, I want to congratulate you on your nomination as a National Security Minister. I've worked very, very closely with you on several matters, including the Dapaah issue. I want to take a lead from your interaction with the Honorable Minority Leader when he said he was warming you up. He made reference to the composition of the National Security Council. Now, some analysts have examined Article 83(1), and they have said that the combination of political heads and service chiefs, the National Security Council, is one that should be reconsidered, and that the service chiefs should rather be technical committee of the National Security Council so that they can advise the political heads. In a matter that comes to voting, for instance, all of them probably have one vote, and the decision more or less would have to be advisory from the service chiefs. What would you say about the composition? I think it's repeated in the Act 526 and also at the new Security and Intelligence Act, Act 1030 in Section 1. Do you agree with the analysts?
Mr. Chairman, under the new Act, we think we have something that offers the clarity that we had always sought for. There will now be a Ministerial Security Coordinating Committee, which will have only the political heads. Minister for National Security, Minister for Defense, Minister for Interior, Minister for Communications, Minister for Finance. We will form what we call the Ministerial Security Coordinating Committee. In addition to this, we have the Joint Intelligence Committee, which is made up only of the technical people, the CDS, the IGP, the Director of Defense Intelligence, the NIB, the RD, and so on and so forth. They also have a similar committee. Both are subcommittees of the National Security Council, and all of us team up to go and constitute the National Security Council. I think with this arrangement where we have a separate meeting for the ministers, coordinating meeting, a committee for the ministers, I think it provides the clarity that had always been advised.
Very well. Yes, Suhini.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Maybe I'll also start with follow-ups. First one, follow-ups to some answers that were given. I'm surprised you don't know what follow-ups means. So, the Honorable Minister, in response to a question that was put to him earlier, in relation to the contract between Beijing Everyway Limited that was eventually replaced with another company, suggested that no work was done. As a follow-up, Mr. Chairman, the records show that in February, in fact 21st February 2019, the President cut sword for that particular project. I want to find out from the nominee, based on his knowledge of project management, is it possible for no work to be done before sword cutting takes place?
Honorable Chairman, I insist that from all that I know about it, and I do know about this particular issue, I still believe that no work has ever been done.
Well, because I can't follow up more than once, I'll move on to my next follow-up, which has to do with another question that you answered initially from the, I think, the leader of our side, in relation to the Auditor General. I came across a paper you delivered on 15th April 2015, entitled Accountability and Corruption in Public Sector. It was a speech delivered at the 36th Management Day celebration of the University of Ghana Business School. I'm sure you recall. Now, in this paper, you made a number of interesting observations. Observations that led to conclusions or recommendations to strengthen accountability and transparency in public financing. I'll just go through a few. Recommendations 2. You stated that the provisions of the Audit Service Act 2000, Act 584, with regard to the budgetary estimates of the service, which stipulates that in respect of the audit service, the estimates they submit, quote, shall be laid before Parliament without revision, but with any recommendations that the government may have on them, unquote, should be strictly enforced. You also, recommendation 8 says the Auditor General and the Public Accounts Committee should both put in place mechanisms to monitor and follow up on audit recommendations. 10 says sanctions must be used to punish all those cited in the reports of the Auditor General and the Public Accounts Committee as having committed various acts of financial discipline. Maybe the final one, which for me is very interesting, especially relevant to the answer that you gave earlier. It says the Auditor General must assert his independence and continue to improve the quality of work. The Auditor General, that was your recommendation, in fact, your conclusion. The Auditor General must assert his independence and continue to improve the quality of work. Now, in relation to the answers you gave earlier, how do you reconcile those with the need or your position that the Auditor General must assert his independence, especially in the times that we are in, where the Auditor General seems to be at loggerheads with some appointing authorities?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Auditor General hasn't got any problem with government. The government has no problem with him. There is a fundamental issue on this issue of independence. Honorable Chairman, if ever there is a qualification that an auditor needs, it is independence. You cannot audit somebody when you are not independent. In fact, we say in the auditing textbooks that you cannot get your wife to audit you. There's no way she can do an effective work. So independence for the Auditor General is very, very important. It's very, very crucial. The problem that we have, and it's not government, we the professional accountants, the professional auditors, what we have with the Auditor General is whether the independence is personal to him, the Auditor General, or it is to the audit service. No Auditor General has given it the interpretation that it is a personal independence. They've always operated on the basis that it is independence for the audit service. If it's personal to him, then the Deputy Auditor General cannot also enjoy independence. This is where the confusion has come from. But the Auditor General is my friend. When he used to work for the World Bank, he was always in Zimbabwe. He was always taking me to Zimbabwe as a resource person to talk on these matters. So I know he's sincere in what he's saying when he says it should be personal. I totally disagree. And I think the majority of accountants and auditors disagree that it is not something that is personal to him as the Auditor General. Because he goes on from there to say that, yes, there is the audit service regulations, which says there is a board, which board must do this. He said, no, nobody can touch me. The board cannot touch me. I'm independent. And my independence is derived from the Constitution. So he's not being, I wouldn't say he's not being sincere. He's being sincere, but I disagree with him totally on the interpretation that he gives to the independence of the Auditor General.
All right. Maybe it's a discussion we can.
Yes, we can. It's an interesting discussion we can carry.
But before your nomination, maybe to my substantive question now, first one. Before your nomination and after your nomination, a number of security analysts, I'll call them security commentators, have stated their opinion to the effect that they do not think you deserve the renomination. One, Adib Sani, Adam Bona, Patrick, and others. I have all the statements that they have all issued. Some described you as inefficient, incompetent, not fit for the national security appointment. Others, use other captions to suggest that you should not hold that position. They gave reasons bordering on increased militarization of internal security, the happenings in Ayawaso, West Wagon, and other well-known indiscretions, Ghana's poor performance on the World Press Freedom Index, for example, the murder of Ahmed Swaleh, and the bizarre way he was murdered, and also the torture of some Ghana web journalists, Ajafo, the editor of the Ghana Web and others. What do you have to say? I mean, despite all of this, what do you have to say in defense of your renomination in the face of all of these observations?
Honorable Chairman, the beauty of the democracy that we have is that people are entitled to their views, and who am I to disagree with them? But with all due respect, all the names that you mentioned, they said they are security experts. Ask within the security community, what makes them experts? Honorable Chairman, somebody has today written, none of the security experts. The security experts are known as Honorable Agalga. He will just give you the names of security experts in Ghana and ask him whether these are part of it. One of the people you are talking, Honorable Chairman, has today published that Dapaah should not be given the nod. He has not been able to solve the kidnapping and murder of the three kidnapped in Accra. I mean, how unfair. You should know, Honorable Chairman, how we managed to get the people who did it. They've gone through the court process. And on March 15th or on March 5th, judgment is going to be given. What else can we do? We know the people who committed the crime. We've been able to apprehend them. They've gone through a court system. The court is going to give a judgment on the 5th. I don't know what way it will go. But of course, I followed the proceedings while it was in court. And I have my own thinking of how it will go. Why don't you wait for the judgment to come before you make such a conclusion? I mean, to say that Dapaah should not be made a minister for security because of what happened at Takrade with the murder of the girls, that is going too far. Right. Some of them also come up with stories that say he's been at that position for so many years. He has not been able to produce a national security strategy. Senior, we have it. So the sort of things that they write, and I give you an advice. In the work that we do, you must not always scare the critics. Criticism is the unpaid consultancy, the consultancy that you don't pay for. So let's accept it. In the quiet of your bedroom, read it. If it is useful, take it. If it is not useful, you don't take it. All the things that they've written about me, it's neither here nor there. Some also write to say that he's taking the fear out of national security. Oh my God, is this a crime? He's taking the fear out of national security.
Chairman, maybe to be fair, I listed a number of them.
Yes.
Increase militarization of internal security, indiscretions, Ghana's poor performance on the World Press Freedom Index. These, for me, seem more substantive than those you are speaking to.
Ghana's performance on the World Press Freedom, all of it attributable to the national security?
No, the bizarre murder that hasn't been solved of Ahmed Saleh, the torture of journalists by the national security.
Honorable Chairman, all high-profile cases that have happened in the past 4 years, we've been able to resolve it. And I think every credit must go to the Ghana police. The only one we've not been able to solve is Swale. And to me, it is a personal challenge. We're doing everything possible to make sure we can find out just what happened. I am as concerned as you are, except that I cannot just cook something up and say that he is the person who did it, when in fact that is not the case. But then take that one aside and talk of any other high-profile case. You will find that the police service of Ghana deserves some commendation for the efficient manner that they are able to handle most of these things. But you see, it's so easy for somebody to take a pen, paper, and write all the things that he wants to write. So, with all due respect, I believe that my performances, some also don't like my style. Sure. I'm always conscious of the fact that it is my duty to ensure cohesion in the country. Don't do anything that will make any political party jittery, annoyed, and worried. You can create a big problem for the country if you did that. You need to be able to talk to both sides. When they see me talking to Honorable Agarga, they say there's a problem. When they don't see me talking to somebody else, they say it's a problem. I'm conscious of whatever I do, and fortunately for me, on a daily basis, at most every 2 days, I sit down with my employer to go through all the things that I'm doing. He reviews everything that I'm doing. I believe when he believes that I'm not the right person to protect him, to protect his government, to protect the country, he will have no difficulty making a decision for himself.
All right, Mr. Chairman, to my second issue, it's maybe a follow-up from the honorable colleague from Gushegu.
Honorable, can you go on with your own questions? You've done 2 follow-ups already.
Yeah, it's a question. It's a substantive question. You can count it as question number.
Very well.
I don't mind, yes. But I'm just saying that it is going to be a follow-up from the question he asked. I'm not counting it as a follow-up 3 or 2. Because I'm quoting from Article 83(1) of the 1992 Constitution. It says there shall be a National Security Council which shall consist of the President, the Vice President, the Ministers for the time being holding the portfolios of Foreign Affairs, Defense, Interior, and Finance, and such other ministers as the President may determine. That's where my interest is, and such other ministers as the President may determine. Now, we have the National Security Council Act 1030. I'm just thinking, and you may educate me, is it possible for the National Security Council, perhaps in the future, to exist based on provisions of Article 83 without the Minister of National Security being part of it? Because clearly, the constitutional creation of the National Security Council does not mandate that the National Security Minister be part of the National Security Council. You may want to educate me. And maybe whilst at that, there has been an issue relating to why the Director General for the Narcotics Control Commission was not also made part of the National Security Council under the Act 1030.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the Minister for National Security obviously has to be a member of the council, but at the time that the Constitution was being made, they did not think there was going to be a Minister for National Security. So you find that a minister was to be nominated to be in charge of that ministry, and it normally used to be the Minister for the Interior. This is the first time that we are formally creating that Ministry of National Security. When we came up with the new law, the Security and Intelligence Agencies Act, we had wanted to include the Minister for National Security as a member of the National Security Council, but it was realized that no, it's a constitutional provision and you cannot use an act to change it. So in future, when we are reviewing the Constitution, we probably may want to have a look at it and see whether the Minister for National Security can be a member. For now, it's okay because the Constitution also gives the President the right to nominate other persons to be there, and that is what is happening now.
What about Act 1030? The Director General of Narcotics Control Commission.
Yes, the Director General of the Narcotics is also more of an intelligence agency. Yes, they also do a lot of investigation, but the NACOP, IOCO, the financial intelligence Commission, I believe these are institutions that should be part of the National Security Council and therefore the National Security Ministry. But in practice, you have to measure how you do these things. Otherwise, it will be seen as an attempt to build an empire for yourself.
So do you consider it an oversight that all these agencies that you have mentioned had their, if you like, bosses being part of the national... What's happening? How many have you counted so far? Unbelievable.
Honorable Nilante.
So some of these things you don't make those claims. I mean, I haven't asked 7 questions. This is about my 4th question. So I was asking in relation to the Chairman, sometimes I get very envious of how patient you are with other, In fact, I was just telling my chief whip when we were outside how you were very patient with my big sister, Honorable Zwira, that I wish you were that patient with me also.
I have been very patient with you today. Very,
wow.
very, very. Yes.
Wow. Then I should even count myself.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, but let me just finish on that.
Can I? You know, we've been here, we said we'll give ourselves how many hours? Now we've been here about 9 hours now. I think it's way beyond what is possible. Yes, so kindly let's move on. Yes, Honorable Nilante.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And first, I want to crave your indulgence for some laxity. Some laxity because the honorable nominee specifically mentioned my constituency, and as such, I will ask him that maybe in the case of Odododio, or what has been expressed by Samuel Kujeto, possibly lack of conclusive intelligence may have formed the opinion on the incidents that happened in Odododio. And as such, I will ask him that, judging from the past knowledge and perceptions I have about him, I wish he doesn't disappoint me by getting close to find out what really happened in Odododio. Because the intelligence report you have received about what happened in Odododio is not factual and it's not the truth. So that is my first comment on that issue. First, let me go straight to Ayaso West Wagon. In the white paper, section 6.3, government was unable to accept the conclusions of the May-Short report on the attack of a member of parliament, Honorable Samnate George, just on the basis of provocation. I want to ask you, knowing who Dapaah is, do you think that a sitting member of parliament, or any Ghanaian for that matter, should be assaulted on the basis of provocation by anybody? And if you don't accept, what do you think should be done in this situation on the abuse of the privileges of the member of parliament?
Honorable Chairman, let me just say that this is a very difficult one for me because Honorable Sam George is my nephew, and obviously I'm very close to him. We are not related, but I see him as my nephew, and I know he has that much respect for me. But a white paper has been issued by government. It will obviously be wrong for me as a member of that government to be expressing other views about it. So that I don't comment on the inquiry that you have made.
Mr. Chairman, a follow-up on the same issue. Mr. Minister for National Security, white paper has been issued. In the conclusion of the white paper, I believe you were consulted.
Yes.
Did you in any way advise government to say that in this particular instance, I think that this conclusion is not right?
So again, you are asking me to tell you about discussions that we had as a team, as members of government. I mean, obviously I cannot do that.
Let me go to my second question. There is this perception out there that anybody in this country now who, as we say, tells truth to authority is hounded and possibly persecuted. And belief is that certain two incidents come to memory: the Bentua coup plot and then the WhatsApp coup plot.
Sorry,
this has made
what
is termed the Bentua coup plot, involving Dr. I've forgotten the name. Is it Dr. Buckle or something? And then the WhatsApp coup plot involving the police officer. Please, I'm not commenting on the issue of I'm not. I'm saying that this has created perception in people that anybody who tells truth to government is persecuted. Are we sure we are not creating a culture of silence in the society?
Honorable Chairman, this is a matter that is currently in court. I think it will be inappropriate for us to be discussing it. But as far as the police and the Attorney General are concerned, there was a basis for them to be charged, and that is why they have charged them. Can we please wait for the court to decide on this? And please don't let us see it as an attempt to silence critics. If that becomes the order of the day, it will be very, very bad for this country. And I don't think that is what is happening.
My last question. Human security, and you use a very nice catchphrase: soft solution. Poverty eradication, lack of social infrastructure, and, as you mentioned, unemployment have become some of the attributable social problems that lead to national security abuses and possibly domestic terrorism. What has been the relationship between your office in the past 4 years with Minister of Employment, Labor Relations, Minister of Finance, and other linked ministries in minimizing the effect of such issues on society?
We've done quite some work, and we've gotten to the point where we think we're going to get the necessary budgetary allocation to be able to put some of these ideas into practice. It's a very, very important part of the solution, providing these soft options in those areas where people are likely to be radicalized. We've gone very far, worked with the various ministries, and I think we've gotten to the point where we will get a good budgetary allocation for us to implement it. Already, we're doing some of the things. The Army on their own have been doing some work for the people, giving them boreholes, clearing roads for them. They're doing it on their own from their own budget resources. But as I said, we now are going to have a specific budgetary allocation to be able to do that.
Very well. Yes.
Chairman, I'm grateful. Let me join earlier members to also commend the nominee. My interest to start with has to do with sub-regional security concerns and then border disputes. The existence of the Ghana Boundary Commission, which the nominee knows its mandate fully described, has some relationship or should have a relationship with your outfit. Would the nominee be kind enough to apprise this committee for the past 4 years or thereabout, what has been the relationship and what do you think should be improved upon? Thank you.
The Ghana Boundary Commission has only just been reconstituted formally, and we've only just appointed a Director General. So work has actually only just started. But within the very short period, they have done quite some interesting assignments. They've recently come from the Ghana-Togo border. Next week, they're going to do some work on the Ghana-Ivory Coast border. We have borders, we share borders with these countries, and it is important that both countries are aware of exactly where the borders are. That has not always been the case, because we have people living close to the border, say in Cote d'Ivoire, who believe the border should rather be further into Ghana and vice versa. It's created a whole lot of confusion. There's a place called Dapaah up north, which, as we speak, has engaged in some border disputes with Cote d'Ivoire in a manner that can be frightening. So we do have a lot of confidence in the Ghana Boundary Commission, and yes, we have absorbed them into the National Security Ministry to give them the push that they need to establish themselves.
Chairman, I feel proud as a Ghanaian following the success we chalked as a country relative the ITLOS case. What has been the lessons over the years? And in the face of possible threats that are lingering, what should be our posture as a country going forward?
We have stated it, that don't let the problem come before we try to solve it. Let us go in there, let us find where the boundary should be, let us agree among ourselves so that the problems don't even arise in the first place. If there is, say, an oil find here, it should be clear to both sides that it's either in Ghana or in Cote d'Ivoire or in Togo or in wherever else, waiting for the problem to come. The problem comes when there is, say, a major discovery. And then this country will say, no, it's for me. This one says, yes, it's for me. We finding somewhere around Bole that there is significant gold find there. Today, the Ivorians say it is for them. Ghanaians say it is for us. We need to be able to avoid this. So let us establish the correct boundaries before such problems arise.
Honorable nominee, would you be kind enough to tell this committee the extent or level of coordination among sub-regional security ministers, and what has been the strategy, and going forward, what do you envisage to do better?
I think I commented on that earlier. I said that the president found that in the Sahel area, they did have an association. They were working together to fight the terrorists. If you come to the Lake Chad area, they also have a similar association, Nigeria, Cameroon, and they are also working to protect their countries. Left out in all these were the countries around Burkina Faso, notably Benin, Burkina Faso itself, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana. The president then decided that let us also, in this sub-region, and these countries that I have mentioned, let's also come together and let's see how we can work closely with each other to fight the terrorists if they do come and attack us. The president said, we are an English-speaking country. We are surrounded with French-speaking countries. The way the French military operates, and therefore the French-speaking countries, the way their soldiers operate, is different from the way the Ghana, as an English-speaking country, our soldiers operate. If we are going to be able to help each other in the event of an attack from outside, our soldiers must know how to fight with soldiers from the neighboring countries. Today, we engage in joint operations for them to know each other. Again, Honorable Chairman, there was a time that, say, the intelligence head of Ghana will not know the name of the intelligence head in Cote d'Ivoire, will not know the name of the intelligence head in Togo and in the other neighboring countries. In the midst of transnational crimes, that was a very serious position, because we need to be able to get our neighbors to help us in fighting some of these crimes. With the Accra Initiative, which has been put in place by the President, and that is why it has the name Accra Initiative, headquartered in Accra, we now have security heads and intelligence heads who know themselves in West Africa, because they're talking to each other, they are sharing intelligence on a daily basis, and not only do they know themselves, in fact, they know the first names of the wives of their colleagues in all these countries. To me, that's a very, very significant achievement.
Honorable Nominee, what is the synergy between our national security strategy and our foreign policy as a country?
We try to make sure that there is a proper synergy at all times. In fact, we are now even suggesting that officers in the foreign service, in the diplomatic community, should also benefit from the training courses that we offer, so that they also obtain some expertise in intelligence, for instance. And we are also encouraging our intelligence operatives to also learn about diplomacy, so that they can also understand diplomacy. We believe intelligence and diplomacy go together, and therefore the good intelligence officer must not only be knowledgeable in intelligence gathering and analysis, he must also be good in diplomacy, and vice versa.
Honorable Nominee, you've commented quite extensively about by-elections, and I think the focus was on the Ayawaso. Would you say that it would have been more inclusive if, as a country, we had at least looked at the past 10 years or decade by-elections that have been held in this country? Because you agree with me that there have been previous by-elections that have been probably been more bloody or violent compared to that of Ayawaso. But we seem to be focusing on the recent one. What is your opinion about that?
Minister, you are free to answer it, but I know that in your answer you had made references to Cherponi, Talensi, and others to provide some historical basis, but you are free to answer him as to whether which was more violent than other. Is for you to answer, sir.
But I think the point I try to make, and which I will want to reiterate, is that after those incidents in those places, Ghanaians had come to expect that violence associated with by-elections was something of the past, would never happen again. Therefore, when we heard of concerns being expressed in the social media, with the chairman of the NDC going on air to say that there is so much violence, we are not going to take part in the elections again, that was indeed a very worrisome situation. And I said that it was appropriate that the president should have been that much concerned as to set up this commission. So let's hope that we won't see any such thing. Can I confide, or can I tell you something? Getting into the last election, my greatest fear was what will be the role of the vigilante groups. Will they cause confusion in spite of the laws that we had passed? My relief is that there was no such thing during the last election. So probably we're getting somewhere. And, you know, with these vigilantes, we need to be very careful. It is wrong to call them NDC vigilante group or NPP vigilante groups, because if I go to a so-called NDC vigilante group to ask for them to come and work for me for an NPP operation, they will come. Oh yes. These are people who have organized themselves for their own commercial purposes. And we shouldn't allow them to create that much confusion in the system.
Honorable nominee, your concerns about the environment is spot on. I mean, matters relating to sun winning, pollution of water bodies, illegal mining, and the likes. It is definite, and it is also a fact, that the current government has taken some defined actions against these environmental degradation activities. What, in your assessment, has been the high points as in success of it? And then what are the areas that you think we have to review as a country in our march to achieve the ultimate goal?
To tell you the truth, I wouldn't want to venture and come out with any specific answer now. From where I sit, I had been reviewing the performances that we were making with the anti-galamsey programs. At some point in time, I was very, very happy with myself with regard to the improvement that we were making. Then all of a sudden, I started seeing some challenges, and it got into the point where, like many Ghanaians, I'm also asking myself whether we have not lost track. I do know that we have some teams who are thinking through the program and trying to come up with some solutions that we think can be sustainable and can really address the issue. I did say earlier that it's a fairly complex thing, but it is a problem that we need to solve. We cannot live with it. It won't be fair to the unborn generation if we do not find a solution to it. And on a bipartisan basis, let us, and probably Parliament should get more involved in this, let us find a solution that will be acceptable. It may be unpalatable, but if it is supported by both parties, what is it that we cannot do?
Honorable nominee, you recently undertook some border operations, and your critics describe them as being politically motivated. Can you bring this committee up to speed? You've answered it.